Hi guys, I'm Van Orn and this is another Dragonheir Silence God video. Guys, in today's video we're going to take a look at two of the main questions that I've seen asked pretty much everywhere when I look for this game, YouTube video and Discord in particular. Not just my video but videos of also other content creator. We're going to have a look at those questions, understand if there is a common root problem that regards and generates those questions, understand why is happening and see if there is a possible solution. Now, those two questions are in particular, why are you making always videos and guides using X, Y, Z champions? And when is the epic chest coming back into the game? I need the epic to do this content. These are the two questions we're going to dive into it. And to do so, we're going to jump into the gallery and have a look at all the champion in the game. Here we are into the gallery and we're going to have a look at the epics in particular. I'm not going to talk about legendary. They are too difficult to obtain and you probably can't rely with them mostly. I don't have a lot of legendary neither, so we're going to exclude them. And we're not going to talk about rares neither because beside few example of very good rares that you can bring anywhere into the game, most of the rares are basically power crept by your progression into the game, so you're going to tend to leave them behind unless you don't have better option. And therefore, we're going to exclude them. So for the rest of the champions, we're going to look only at the epics, and there are 77 epics into the game as today. Now, those epics for me can be broken down in three main categories: tank, support, and DPS. The DPS in particular then can be broken down into the 9 school of damage, and for each school of damage there are generally between 3, 4, 5 champions, and those also could be broken down in two categories: the enabler and the true DPS. Now, we can argue also that in those two categories, not all the DPS are good. Some are better, some are worse, some are borderline useless. But we're gonna just take the assumption that most of these damage dealer from this school need to be paired with someone else of the same school to enhance their damage. And therefore, when we think about our 5-man composition to do any content into the game, we're gonna tend to, in 90% of the case, allocate 2 slots at DPS. And that is the assumption we're gonna take so far, because we're not gonna break down all the DPS into the game. We're just gonna take the assumption that we need 2 DPS in our comp, and therefore we're gonna run 3 support, tank, healer, and a special flexible spots for dealing with specific dynamics of the game. But we taking off from 77 epics, 33 DPS, and basically half of the pool is gone. And for the other 3 slots, we're gonna have to pick very carefully because the roles are limited and the abilities we're gonna need are very specific. And so we're going to have a look at them in particular and understand what are the priority and the category and the characteristic we're looking for when we're choosing our supports. The first category we're going to have a deep dive into it is the tanks. There are only 14 tanks split between the 6 affinity, and obviously not all of them are really good. Some are better, some are head and shoulder above anybody else. So let's have a look at them and understand what we expect from a tank. In my opinion, when we choose in a tank, we expect one of these two things. You either need to be extremely tanky and good at one thing, or you need to have a versatile set of skills that basically gonna cover at least a couple of roles in our composition. And these are the two main characteristics we're looking for a tank. So when we're looking at this, obviously, when we're looking at this list, there are 2 names that jumps to everybody's mouth. Those 2 champions are, of course, Furbat and Garius. These 2 champions are so far behind anybody else in this category that it is almost unfair to compare them. Garius is considered an endgame champion. It's used by pretty much everyone in the game that owns it. Even if you are super endgame with most of the legendary and you have legendary artifact, you're gonna end up using this guy because he is super tanky. He makes himself so strong with the increased defense from his passive, and he heals your team by crazy numbers, better than many other healers into the game. And he's part of that first category I was talking about. He's a tank that does only one thing, he is tanky and he heals, but he does it so well that nobody else can be compared. Now, the second category is the flexible or versatile kit, I should say. And Furbat, it's part of that category, in my opinion. Is really tanky. It has a defense aura that helps your team stay alive. It brings heal, and it brings decreased defense. And it also dispels a debuff when he attacks the enemy. He is very close to Garius, in my opinion. We can argue that in Season 1, maybe Furbat was better than Garius for many reasons, mainly because of the decreased attack. But in Season 2, the combination of the boss buff and the change that's been done to the gear, especially when they taken off the defense buff from the gear, the protection gear, has made Garius probably even better than Furbat. Now, the only other two tanks I would really mention from this category are Isolde and maybe Clovis. Isolde has a very interesting kit. She has a defense aura, she brings shield, she brings decreased attack, and she brings damage mitigation when she plays shields on other champions. Her kit is very versatile, keep your team alive, and she brings that decreased attack that is very much needed. Clovis is in a way also quite good. I think is mostly underrated. He has the same aura as Garius and Isolde, 24% defense. He brings this decreased attack and turn meter control on his ultimate, and he's also increasing his defense, making him a little bit tankier. Probably is not close to even the goodness of Isolde, but is very specifically good in certain situations, especially for those bosses that have 18-second rotation. He helps us stretch out the time a little bit and maybe make the rest of the composition fall in line with the rotation. Now, the rest of the tank in here, you can use them if you don't have better options, but if you have better options, there is really no reason to run any of this champion, except maybe some very specific situation, those continental bosses that maybe require you a very, very specific skill in particular. And to show you how far these kits are from the champions we mentioned so far, I want to show you dueling in particular. And I don't understand really why this champion it's so far from the other, because, well, first of all, his artwork is amazing. I would love to use this champion everywhere. I love the artwork of this dwarf with this ice hammer. It's absolutely amazing. He has a defense aura in Grand Gladiator Arena, which, okay, it's fine. It's specific for the area. But then on his passive, the hero takes 1% less damage for every 3% of HP lost. Now, this is a little bit too little, in my opinion. When you get your health so low, you need a way to heal back, and the way that he heals back is not enough really, because he heals back from his ultimate and he grants a light protection to allies within range with that star shapes for 10 seconds and gain defense up 2 on himself and recovering over time on himself. So it recovers 1.5% of max HP every second. And when you're protecting few other champions, you're taking damage yourself, you fall low, that heals is just not enough to bring him back to utility and to survive for a long time. Plus, what really makes him useless, in my opinion, is the fact that he has attack penalty on his battle skills, which is already subpart because we can't really time it as we want when we do fight. Usually we use it for the ultimate skills, on decrease attack on the ultimate skills, because we can time it and we can choose when to have it on the boss. On battle skills, we can't really do that. We need to do some magic with time skill, haste, and attack speed sometime. But nevertheless, he has attack penalty 1 on an epic and on a battle skill. So this alone make him not even in the same category of those epics we've seen before, and it's an absolute shame. But this can be applied to many other tanks in these categories, Horus included. Even if Horus has that amazing damage mitigation on his ultimate, hits recovery, he takes less damage, is shield himself, but then he has attack penalty on his battle skills again, which is not ideal, and it's not even 100%, it's 75%, and he cannot be booked up to 100%. So we basically never use this tank, even if we get him for free in day 3, because there are just better options. So there is no reason really to try to find another use for this champion. And that's pretty much the same for everybody else in this comp. They are almost good, but not good enough. And when compared to Furbat and Garius, there is no competition. And that's why we always use Furbat and Garius. And that's why everybody is looking to get them. Everybody gets frustrated at content creators that do videos with these two tanks. And everybody is looking for those epic chests to get one of these two tanks. And in my opinion, a game like this one with such a large pool of champions cannot rely only on two tanks in the entire pool of champions. And that is the problem. The problem is not the content creator making videos on this specific champion or that specific champion in particular. And it's not getting a £1 or £10 chest. They're going to give you that unique champion in the game that does that skills. And same can be applied for the support. If we jump into the support champions, well, there are a little bit more. There are a total of 30 support champions in the epic category. So you will think, oh, okay, there are many more champions over here. And we can also argue that some of them are good and unique, but most of them don't see any airtime whatsoever. We're gonna always use the same. And in this category alone, there are champions that are far beyond the rest, like we've seen in the tanks. There are champions like Adolphus. Adolphus make content accessible to almost everybody when they have him. His shields are massive. And when you see whales, dolphins, or content creators spending into the game and complaining of the fact that they can't really access one boss on the Continental Challenge, or they can't reliably farm one of the dungeons because they don't have one champion, and it's the only champion in the game that has that skill that allow you to do that content, the fundamental flaw, it's not having that champion, but is the game that doesn't design a range of champions with similar skills. And not all of them need to be perfect or amazing like Adolphus is, but they need to make the game more accessible. We should have more champions with this set of skills or similar set of skills or similar combination of this set of skills, because otherwise what we're doing, we can't chase the unique champion that makes it, and we can't target it. There is no increasing chance of pulling that specific champion. And yeah, it's just poor design. Some of these champion kits are absolute trash. When you compare it to Nathaniel, in my opinion, is, first of all, is one of my favorite champion in the game. But it has so much versatility. And again, is a part of that category. It doesn't do anything incredibly. It doesn't shield as much as Nathaniel. It probably doesn't heal as much even as Exandra. Exandra, which is rare, heals more than him. But when you read this kit and you see everything he does, it's just incredible compared to other champions that can't do one thing right. He brings an HP aura in all battles. On his passive, when buff expires or dispels from any target on the field, heal the ally with the lowest current HP by 5% of their max HP. This effect can only be triggered once every 1 second. So every time something expires or been removed, it keeps healing. Dispel 1 debuff from allies within range and grant them with 1 stack of recovery over time for 5 seconds. This is crazy good. You dispelling debuff, any debuff, no condition applied, and you're giving them recovery over time. And on his ultimate, on top of hitting and doing damage, doing damage with attack lightning damage to enemy within range and granting 10% target max XP plus 1800 enlightenment shield and defense 1 up to all allies for 10 seconds. For each enemy hit by the skill, the shield increased by 10%. Now this shield, as I said, is not as big as Adolphus one, but it's still incredibly good and is combined with defense up 1. And the reason, in my opinion, why this champion is underestimated is because it's not defense up 2. But there are not many champions that offer a kit that is so complete and so versatile. You have probably to look in the legendary category to find anything even close to it. Voresh is another champion that unlocks a lot of content. He has an AoE triple hit on his ultimate, placing block debuff. He deals spell on a triple hit battle skills. It has a chance to dispel buff from the enemy. He heals the enemy with the lowest HP. He is just an incredible champion, so versatile and so useful to keep your team going, to remove those buff on the enemy, to put the decreased defense if you have any of the artifact that put that also. Curzet, for example, is another amazing champion. This champion's just been added to the game, but the kit of this champion just look almost legendary. Probably is not as survivable, but look at this champion. The hero gains 15% ultimate energy whenever an ally is inflicted with a debuff. This skill can only be effective every 5 seconds, so she gains 15% every time we get debuff every 5 seconds. She deals 310 attack necrotic damage to the enemy around the hero and has a 75 book up to 100% chance of inflicting shield prohibition on them for 5 seconds. It's the only champion in the game that does this. This debuff is unique and unique to her. And then on the ultimate, on a 20-second recharge, strikes the enemy 3 times, each dealing 300 attack necrotic damage with 50% chance of inflicting recharge speed penalty on them for 10 seconds. Meanwhile, the third attack has a 75 buck up to 100% chance of inflicting attack speed penalty. So that 50% goes up to 75%. So you hit 3 times and you almost guaranteed to apply that recharge speed penalty. And your ultimate, the last hit, also apply attack penalty too. So this kit is crazy. It's absolutely crazy. You compare it to a champion like Brody, for example. Brody is a defense. It's based on defense, so you build his defense. It's a bit more survivable, but his ultimate dispel shield, okay, and he plays defense up on himself, and his battle skills again apply attack speed penalty, and he has only 75% chance again. So when you compare this champion to the new one, it's not even the same category. They're not even playing the same sport, and it's absolutely crazy. And we can talk about other champions, but I don't think it's needed. I think the point is already clear. These champions are so far beyond the comparison with anything else in the game from the epic down that if you have them, you're really not going to build anything else unless you need it. Unless you need it for a specific boss, unless you don't have any better options, you're not going to look for anything else. And for me, this is a fundamental flaw with the design of the game, because when we filter down for category, then the comparison is even worse. If I'm looking for decreased attack, where are the debuff, attack penalty, in the epic category over here, well, there's not much in the support, right? Dane has the smallest version, and Brody, as we said, is non-reliable. When we go on ice, for example, we have Gardrus that has it on a battle skill. Sovelis has the decreased attack only conditional if there goes on the veil. Pargu is so random, like a champion like this should not even be in the game on this form. You should have at least one of these debuff guarantee and the other maybe being random, but you can just not have a champion placing everything randomly like this. So yeah, just to close it here and to keep it short, this game needs to go through the roles, the main roles in the game, look at the epics and the rares, and start understanding that there are not enough options for us to build effective comps on each affinity, because the affinity are also rotating, so we kind of need to relate on the affinity in isolation sometime. And there are not enough options to run some content, for example, if we miss one of the epics. I'll give you a straight up example over here. Let's go to the ancient battlefields. Let's have a look at the stage 9 line recommendations. There are a few recommendations over here. Obviously, most of them use legendaries. Look at this one. This one is crazy. But then let's have a look at the epics only. There are only 3 comps on the board. And we have Adolphus, Voresh, Garius, and Furbat. 4 of the champions we mentioned in this list. Now the last one is a damage dealer. Second comp, we have Furbat, Voresh, Adolphus, Garius. Same 4 we talk about, and different damage dealer. And then the last one has Voresh, Furbat, and Adolphus, and 2 different champions. Now, you see very easily that if you miss any of these 3 champions in particular, well, I don't know if you can do this content, at least for now, unless you are working on your Psychic Core and getting the last stage of the Psychic Core. And again, to my point, I think this is poor game design. There should be more variety. There should be more champions able to do this. Abilities, maybe in different combinations. Someone that brings shields and decrease attack. Someone that brings block buff and a shield, or block buff and a heal. There should be more variety. And that's why the content creators are making video using always the same champion. And that's why everybody is chasing those epic, and it can be an epic chest or a restricted pull on a banner, but there is not enough champion for us to play this game and enjoy season after season when the affinity are rotating and using different experience for every season. They pushing this idea that every season is going to be different, but every season is going to be different as long as we can play also different ability and different combination with different champions. If we always have to rely to this 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 champions in the epic category until we unlock some of the crazy Legos, well, it's going to be boring and there is no way around that. So on this note, I'm going to close the video here, guys. I think I've ranted enough. I'm not going to keep it any longer than this. I just hope that I made my point clear. I hope that someone or the developer is going to come across of this video if this video get any traction. And if you enjoy the video, guys, if you enjoy me see me ranting about this game I love, please consider liking and subscribing. I'm going to see you soon with another video about Dragonheir Silence God.